Hey, listeners, thank you so much for joining us for the second season of Midlife at the Mailbox. Over 8 years ago, Denyse and I met during a chance meeting at our neighborhood mailbox. Over the years, our friendship has blossomed into something bigger.
We can't wait to tell you all about it. And although we no longer share a mailbox, we really are closer than ever in real life. This meeting at the mailbox inspired a friendship, a business relationship, a lot of laughs, a couple tears, and now a podcast. So come along and listen in. We're so glad you're here.
Denyse and I are very, very excited about today's guest, Jessy Cummings.
Absolutely. I met Jessy when we were working together as I coached her through a recent career transition, and we just clicked. Her innovative branding and approach to build her breastfeeding community was so refreshing and inspiring that I knew I had to have her out in our podcast. She's had so many things that she's done in her life. She started out, some of her career highlights include she studied art and design and earned a BFA in graphic design from the University of Illinois. Yeah, she's also from Illinois, so I know there'll be a lot of...
Wait, hold on. You grew up in Illinois?
Yeah, I sure did.
Okay, we're going to come back to that. Sorry, Dee, come back to your...
Last guess it was Fresno. Now we have, I think she's from Highland Park actually. So we'll have a lot to talk about. I forgot to mention that. Anyway, so Jessy studied art and design and she earned her BFA from the University of Illinois. She's worked on an award-winning ad campaigns for some of the largest brands in the world, like Lexus, Under Armour, and Google. She's also helped build the celebrity beauty and skincare empire, as well as worked as a creative director for a Fortune 500 company for 10 years. And lastly, she's now an entrepreneur herself. She's building her own empire and decided it was time to build a brand for Titty City Design. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Welcome to the show, Jessy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to connect with you both. And I'm excited to share what I've been up to with Titty City.
Oh, so, we can't wait. So I shared a little bit, but Jessy, why don't you share a little bit about yourself to the mailbox here?
Yeah.
Well, first start that you grew up in Highland Park, Illinois, which is very close to here.
Yeah, my parents, my brother and his whole family live in Highland Park today. I grew up in, the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and I've been out here though. I've been a California girl for quite some time though. I was that one that
over Amy.
I was that one that got to the
really
sunshine.
Happy. Yeah, I believe me. It's snowing today, so I understand the need and want for sunshine.
Yes. So I'm a very, very happy California transplant. I live with my family, with my 3-year-old son and my husband, my partner, and our dog. And we live in the South Bay in Southern California. And yeah, I don't know if I officially said it, but I am Jessy and I am the tits behind Titty City Design.
You heard that right, listeners. She said tits.
Yes, I did. You're going to be hearing a lot of boobs, titties. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about that.
So if you have any little ones in the background, just know that this word we're normalizing these social taboos, right? One at a time. So
Yeah. And actually, to begin, I am about to celebrate 2 years since I officially launched my business. And it's just a really exciting time. It was 2020 and the pandemic, it changed everything. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
And
yes.
And that's when I started Titty City Design. And initially, this was just a side hustle, honestly, but I'll get to all that. So I started this body positivity brand that celebrates new moms and breastfeeding, because breastfeeding can be so freaking hard. And my brand also advocates for breast health. And I actually donate a portion of my proceeds to Metaviver. They are a breast cancer organization that makes 100% of their donations towards helping patients with metastatic stage 4 breast cancer. So that's a pretty advanced stage. And I found out about this organization through when I started Titty City Design, through my community, which I like to call my community, because I love a good boob pun. Yes. So, through my products, social media, and I also have a blog, I'm building Titty City to be a supportive community. And really what I've been up to is I create products that celebrate our bodies and to help strike up conversations about the boobment. Yes, you heard that correct. The boobment. What is the boobment? Well, it is a social movement that I started to normalize talking about boobs, especially about our experiences with breastfeeding and about breast health. It's 2023, and it is still so hard for me to believe this is true, but talking about boobs and breastfeeding is still taboo. It's just wild to me. People truly whisper the words, breasts, boobs, titties. We're probably all a little bit guilty of it from one time or another. And I believe that just by talking openly and candidly about our breasts and our experiences with them, that we can take back the power from those who over-sexualize our bodies. And instead, when we talk freely about our boobs, we can promote things like body acceptance and body confidence and self-love. And we can help educate about breastfeeding and postpartum and transitioning to motherhood, which is freaking hard. And
Yes.
right. And we also can encourage each other to just take better care of our breast health, because sadly, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. So that's what the movement is that I started. And Titty City Design is just the catalyst for all of it. So
that's awesome, Jessy. I loved hearing about it when I was coaching you, and now, hearing about more behind the story, right? And I think there's a ton of parallels. I think too, between Amy and a lot of the things Amy feels passionate about in her personal life, and the fact that you guys are all from the same place. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about. And I think too, once you guys, hear Jessy and what she's, what they're trying to do at Titty City Design, I think you will find that it's done in such a fun, playful way that it is really breaking down these taboos and norms that we a lot of times have come into play, right? So
yeah.
So thanks for that, Amy. What about you? I've kind of kept you.
No,
I
love this. Like I said in our first episode, like I love learning about all this, and I can definitely hear the marketer in you, Jessy, from all of these great boob puns. And from the moment that Denyse had mentioned that she had met you last year, I was like, we definitely and I looked up your brand, I'm like, oh, like she would be a really fun guest. And so we're so happy that you're here. And, my son is 11 now, and I was not able to really breastfeed him. So that was obviously a struggle for me, early on, but I lost my best friend 5 years ago to breast cancer. So I really, thank you. I really like the mission that you're on. And I think the message is really, really powerful. So, keeping this light and fun, Denyse and I are big fans of great stories. Tell us about you a little bit more, how you got into how Titty City began, and go. I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah, I have got a story. I do. So first off, I have always been an artist. And for as long as I can remember, I have been an advocate for boobs and breast cancer awareness. Sadly, my grandma passed away from breast cancer, and so did my mother-in-law. So breast health has just been a significant part of my life from growing up through adulthood. And, breast health is an important aspect of all of our lives, really. But in February 2020, I became a mom for the first time. And not just any mom, I became a pandemic mama. So I mean, I sometimes just the shivers down my spine. It's such a wild time to become a mom for the first time. So I had my son 3 years ago, and then the world shut down. And yeah, it's hard to believe that was 3 years ago because it all feels like a blur. Which I know we can all relate to that too.
Yeah, I feel like some of it's, been like kind of pressed out or repressed, at least for myself. And like sometimes when we start thinking about those things, I mean, I always said, gosh, if I was a newborn mom right now, I would be freaking out, like freaking out.
It was wild. I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
I empathize with you. So I really do. I mean, it's different when you have little ones, but keep going. This is your story.
Yeah. So totally. I mean, it was wild. And 3 years ago, that's when I had started my motherhood journey and my breastfeeding journey. And that's when my love and respect for all things titties just took on a whole new meaning for me, because my lonely and challenging breastfeeding journey became the inspiration, which, ready for another boob pun, the titspiration. The titspiration behind my brand came from my breastfeeding journey, really. So let me just say this. Breastfeeding is freaking hard. Okay. It may be the most natural thing in the world, but it does not always come naturally. And you were saying that too, Amy, like it does not. And like, it's something that you and your baby have to learn how to do together. And I never really heard anybody talking like that. Not once did I hear someone I know's talking about their breastfeeding journey or their postpartum experience for that matter, because a lot of people don't talk about it, which I'll get to. But
people don't talk about it. They don't talk about what it's like to have a baby. They don't talk about what it's like to get that baby home. You walk out of that hospital and the hospital staff is just like, do you have your car seat? And we're like, yep. Is it installed? Yep. And they're like, give me your baby. And it's like, see ya. And you have to write this entire manual yourself. So yes, Yeah,
you don't need a license to have a baby. There's no driver's test, like, here you go.
And that could actually be regional as well. Like, not to interrupt your story, but like I've had a baby in California and I had a baby in Illinois. And I had a lactation consultant in California at the hospital. And that was not provided to me in Illinois when I had a baby there. So it could very well be like a little bit of the normalization of some of that, right? Like California being a bit more, I don't know, progressive in some respects.
Well, it's also just about knowing about resources. But if we don't talk and share about that with each other, it's kind of hard to know what to look for or know
which hospital would have that, right? If you're advocating for that, I mean, just depends, right? Some people are not interested. Some people are very interested. It all just depends, right?
Yeah. So as a pandemic mama, there was very little help available, truly. I think we can all remember how scared we were around that time of just being around other people at the beginning of the pandemic, and like Zoom, like having this podcast right now, people were just not comfortable with all this Zoom, and we didn't have it figured out yet. We were a bit in panic town. So there I was with my baby, and we overcame the many breastfeeding struggles we encountered together, and there were many. And luckily, honestly, we were able to continue our breastfeeding journey for 25 months.
Wow.
I can't even believe it. It's a milestone I'm so proud of, because I truly did not even think I was going to make it a week. Like, I think maybe you felt similarly when you were like, what the heck is, like, I'm not doing this. This is insane. It's so hard. And you're in so much pain, you're recovering, all that stuff. So I can't believe that I made it to 25 months, even talking about it now. That was never my goal or my intention, but I'm so grateful that's how it worked out. It was a really frustrating and really lonely breastfeeding journey and motherhood journey, as you can imagine, with the pandemic. And I was really like in need of an outlet. And so that's actually when I began to channel my creativity and my admiration for my breastfeeding journey. And honestly, our magical bodies, hello, like we create a baby, and then we can also create milk. It's crazy. So I was inspired, and it made my creative, fireworks go off for me. So it was near the end of my maternity leave from my full-time job, where I was working as a creative director. And I started painting these adorable titties on all different ceramic pieces. And it was kind of just for me. It was a little escape for me. It was a much needed mental health break when my little one was asleep, for those little short sleep windows. And it was really relaxing to paint. And it even just helped me get back in touch with my creative self, because becoming a mother is a whole other identity. And it takes time to adjust to, and it can make you forget about the person you were before becoming a mother, because all of your responsibilities revolve around keeping this tiny human, alive and well. And so you kind of forget the person you were before.
Yeah,
so
100%.
So smart. So smart. I mean, the things that you said there, like, you didn't even have Midlife at the Mailbox podcast to tell you those things.
No.
We oftentimes share, trying to I say that in jest, mailbox listeners. But yeah, I mean, the things that you're talking about, that self-awareness and trying to remind you of things that you did before you were a mom, they're so key, right? I mean, sometimes when my baby was napping, especially with number one, I was watching Housewives at Bravo and I napping or cleaning, all the things I shouldn't have been doing probably. But you were doing creative outlets, so I love that, right? That you were working towards some goal that made you feel alive, right, and thriving. So.
Well, don't get me wrong. I also watched shows and cleaned and did all the things. It was extreme exhaustion from all of that I was what am I doing? I needed to, to find myself again a little bit, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
and the resilience, I think, of, just this extraordinary life event that you were going through at the same time that the world, or, at least in a couple generations, that our world hadn't gone through this global pandemic and nobody knew what was going on. And, I think when you're having a baby too, I remember taking my baby to outside to a lactation consultant, at a,
we could take our babies outside. When we had our babies.
Yeah. I would have been petrified. I would have been petrified. I can't even imagine. Those were some of my fears and anxieties. Everyone has different ones, but that was mine.
I was grateful that I got actually a pretty reasonable, maternity leave, because parental leave in California is, one of the best in the country. Still, I could talk about that. That could be a whole other podcast of how that needs to change, but, and needs to be something that's recognized on a federal level. But really, I am grateful. I had 16 weeks, and, some of it wasn't paid, but I did get that time, and I'm really grateful for it. But then think about this. I had my whole maternity in quarantine. My whole maternity leave is in quarantine. I couldn't see friends. No one could meet my baby. My family didn't get to meet my baby, honestly, until he was 15 months. Most of my family. So it was a very strange time. But when I was painting these beautiful boobies, my mind was just drifting to all the other mamas out there who are also experiencing this, just like me, experiencing the same loneliness and the breastfeeding struggles. And I mean, it's hard enough without a pandemic, right? It's hard enough.
Yeah.
And finding motherhood just really difficult to adjust to. I know there were so many other people out there like me. So I longed for that supportive village, right? That village that we all hear about.
A community.
Mentioned.
Or
so
a community.
Right? Our community.
As you would say.
Amy's getting in on it now. Amy's in on it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I wanted. I wanted that community. I wanted those people, but we were all on lockdown. But I was thinking about everybody. And it really, for me, I think this was the beginning of something. This is when I started to realize that I wanted to create this brand. I wanted to create this community, one that encourages and celebrates other new moms, just with love and positivity and uplifting, encouragement, and just shower them with praise and support, because it's hard. Motherhood's hard. Breastfeeding's hard. And talking about it just needs to be normalized.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go off script a second. I'm gonna ask, so when you were doing when you started doing your crafting and started putting things together just to kind of put a hobby back together for yourself, what was the first Titty City design that you created?
Oh, yeah. I have it here in my office. So the very first thing that I painted was this ceramic tile, because honestly, I had it in my house. Like I had a bunch of tiles from I'm always doing craft projects. I really am. And so I had this ceramic tile that is a coaster. That was the very first original thing that I painted. And then I painted a whole set of them, and I still have them around my house. I keep one in my office. My design is just all boobs, different shapes and sizes. And I painted on this ceramic tiles, like, 4x4. And then I made a whole bunch of tiles. And my design has gotten honestly crazy refined since then. And I could probably paint them all in my sleep. Which I do get now, by the way. I do get sleep. Having a 3-year-old is very different than a newborn. Yeah. So yeah, that was the first thing I painted. And then because I kind of liked how the pen felt on the ceramic, the next thing I did was I went online and I ordered all sorts of ceramic things. Like I had different pots and like planter pots and things like that. Everyone had pandemic hobbies, right?
That's awesome. I mean, I love hearing so much about, and when Jessy and I are working together, I loved hearing about all the products and really just all that resilience and what she took, and with lemons, could have been lemons, but she made it lemonade, right? And she went in there and it wasn't missing, so she created a gap for herself, and that's what we hear for so many entrepreneurs, right? And that's what we try to inspire, people I work with in my private practice as well. Like, where can you find that gap, right? Or find the need that needs to be done, and try to see if you could fit yourself into that hole. And so you did that, obviously. Some of my favorite ones that I saw on your website too were they're like a little catch-all, and they give you breastfeeding milestones. I think that's really cool and inspirational, like 3 months, 6 months,
Yeah.
I'll take the 2.5-month one for
yes.
number 2. But yeah, it wasn't.
That's amazing. Congrats. Like, honestly, that's incredible. I celebrate any breastfeeding journey. It could be an hour, it could be years. Like it's just, it's magical.
So fast forwarding now, your son is 3. So now tell us, what is going on with Titty City Design? What are you doing?
Are you selling these?
Yeah, I want you to touch on things you're doing on Etsy, Patreon, like all those things. Your in-person events, like tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So naturally I have all of these things and I'm like, what am I doing? Like my partner, he's like, okay, we've got a lot of titty pots around here, and I was like, yeah, they're pretty great. And actually he agrees, he still does. But yeah, so I started an Instagram handle. That was like, we were all on our phones at this time. And I started an Instagram handle, Titty City Design, where I began to post these creations. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, I wasn't really sure at first, just kind of putting them out there. And lots of people were on social media at the time because we were all in lockdown. And I started gaining followers, and I was actually starting to sell them through my DMs. So I'm selling these hand-painted boob-covered ceramics through my DMs to people I've never met before. And it was pretty fun. I mean, it was just a little creative outlet for me still. But
yeah, so let's level set though. Like how and Amy's social media maven here, but how are you getting these followers? Like what was a lot of followers, right? Your ability to sell. This is, I think fascinating for people listening that might be interested in starting their own gig. So
yeah, I mean, I think it was just, people sharing it, like, oh, wow, this is unique. This is different. I experimented a little bit with like hashtags. Like I was not a very social media savvy person at the time. Now I'll tell you, like today it's so funny because I am always in front of the camera on my social media and I'm happy to talk openly, but at the time it was just pictures of my stuff. So I was just showing my artwork, and I think people were just sharing it, like who has an experience. This like this community of other moms and breastfeeding, they jumped on it. They were like, hell yeah. The breast cancer community loved it. They jumped on it too. And I think people just started sharing it. And I started hearing some incredible stories from people because, that's what social media is. And your DMs are open and the comments are, and before I know it, like I'm starting this community, and I have some people on there that I know have been around since like when I first launched it. And yeah, they're, some of them, maybe didn't even buy anything from me, but just support me and like what I'm doing. And it's really fun. It's cool. It's strange,
Your social's
but
great.
Yeah. It's cool. Like you're up to like what, 6,000 or so followers, right? So
yeah. I'm over 6,000, and growing, I mean,
Awesome.
it's a fun place to be. And it led me actually, because I was selling them through my DMs, right? And that's a lot to manage. So maybe it's probably a little bit more simple now, but at the time it was a lot to manage because your DMs, they start to get lost after you have some more conversations. And so it led me to opening up an Etsy shop because I could no longer really manage it, from the standpoint of my DMs, especially because now I was back at work and I was like, I'm a full-time mom. I had part-time childcare, 2 days a week childcare, and while working and doing this. So Etsy kind of became an easy kind of starter, which is a good place to start. So that's
easy,
actually
guys.
where
She had literally like 3 full-time jobs. Easy. I just want everyone to understand that what you were doing is not easy, but amazing, really.
You know what? Thank you. I will take that credit. Because looking back. Yeah, looking back now, like it was hard. It was like, but I think because I was so excited and passionate about it and I wanted to figure it out, it didn't make it feel hard at the time. Like it was hard because I was like trying to figure it out, but because I really I was very much enjoying it. I think that's really why maybe I said it was, maybe that's why.
Flow. You were in like career flow, should I say? Career flow. I mean, you were doing something you loved. It was passionate about the cause. And then on top of it, you're an amazing designer. Like I can't wait for people to see your designs when we start to promote. And it's really cool, like how it all kind of came together. So, okay. Yeah. So that was so step 1 was social media. Step 2 was your Etsy shop. Now you've done even more. So let's keep going.
So that actually helped me launch my first real product with my design printed on it because I was hand painting these. And again, that's something that was for a little bit for me, honestly, for like my mental clarity. But also I wanted to be able to reach more people. So I've worked in, I've worked in this industry of design for my whole career. So I had some resources that I was able to reach out to, from my professional, from my professional referrals. And I reached out and was able to source and get some of my stuff made locally. So my first product got designed. It was locally printed, and it's what is called my hot tits mug. Yep, hot tits, hot coffee in your hot tits mug. And truth be told, this mug, this 16-ounce mug, is still my best seller today. No, but it is. I make a lot of them. I sell a lot of them. They're super fun. So I ended up launching this mug covered in my popular Titty City design on my Instagram account. And I directed people to pre-order the mug on Etsy. So like I put the link in the bio. I was talking about it in my stories and my posts. Go to the link, go to Etsy. So the only thing I had on the Etsy was the pre-order to buy the mug.
Do you remember how many you sold in pre-order?
Around 80, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was wild because that was right off the bat, and it was so wild to me. the 80 people I don't know want to buy this mug. And I realized that I was actually like doing this. I was starting a business, you know? And
step 3, you became an entrepreneur, right?
I know.
An entrepreneur.
I know.
Add tits, entrepreneur. There we are.
Yes. So that's, that got it going. That paid for the order of all of them, like to get made. I think I had, it was a random number in my head, but I'm sure it's like a certain crate amount that I had to order. I ordered 288 mugs. And I was like, well, 80 of them have already been sold. So let's do this. And so, I went and go pick them up and brought them all home to my dining room table. And now what? I have all these mugs. I'm like, okay, and we're going to store them somewhere in our house. I scrambled to figure out how to launch a Shopify store because I was seeing other artists online on Instagram and things, and Shopify was kind of like having its moment. Yep. And so I was like, okay, I could figure this out and I can make all the graphics. I'm a trained graphic designer. And so let's do this. So in March 30th, so just about 2 years ago, March 30th, 2021, that's when I officially launched tittycitydesign.com. So I was doing it. I created a side hustle. I added my hot tits mugs and my hand painted ceramics to the Shopify store. And that was that. I was in business.
The rest is history. Here you are.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, after that, I had kind of taken a minute back. I'm like, hey, I do have a full-time job. I need someone to help me run this side hustle, I think. So I hired a writer. She was my first Titty team member who still works with me today. It's a contractor. It's not like I was able to hire somebody full time. So we set parameters for what we want, what I'd like to see from her, what help I need for the website. And then ask based on my budget, how much she was able to provide. And, she backed down from some things and I was like, of course. And, hopefully being able to grow this as an opportunity. So we've actually been working together for just about 2 years. Awesome. And and so she helps me with my website content. And then 5 months later, August 21, I officially became an LLC. Which comes with other costs. And it's I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to start paying. I'm going to have to pay taxes on what I'm earning here. So I got to be a business. But I think actually one of the things that I realized about it too, is that I wanted to be able to separate my family from my business as well. Right. So becoming an LLC kind of helped with that. And I'm still not an expert at the whole business side of things, but I'm doing my best and I'm learning as I go. And
10% more than the average person. You are in turn an expert, is what I heard on Amy Porterfield. So there you are. She's
but that's what that's what you have to do. I mean, I just got off. I do a group coaching for just teaching how to utilize Instagram, and I got off this call this morning and. The business side of is I know it's something that even I struggle with in terms of trying to figure out okay, how am I going to capture payment from these courses? And, is it worth the investment to get a QuickBooks, or do I need some other CRM that has other functionings in it that I can also bill? And right now I'm still billing, my clients give me a check. Not chase them down, but it's I still have to chase down, what it is that I'm bringing in. So I'm proud of you for taking those steps.
Thank you.
And how did I learn how to use Canva? How did I learn how to utilize Instagram for my business and for my clients, and developing content and the things that I'm teaching? And a lot of it is just what you said, you're learning as you go. It's the same thing. You know, Denyse is always like in awe of, you know, like, oh, like you go through this like so quickly and you picked up the website and like, but this is all stuff that I've taught myself how to do, you know, and that is what makes this fun and exciting.
And everyone's different, right? Like Amy has the patience and she's not afraid to like try it and not, you know, make a mistake or fail, like in design, right? For example. And so sometimes like I just don't have the patience or I don't want to spend the time. And so, but I mean, it takes that like really, you know, that right formula, right? And Jessy, you have that too, right? In your aspects. I mean, what I heard so much of, you know, prior in your story, like the networking, right? You just started talking with people in design that you'd work with to manufacture in LA when like all of, you know, overseas manufacturing was all shut down, right?
Yeah, you couldn't do
small
that.
Scale. Yeah, and you were small scale anyway. You wouldn't have probably been, you know, contacting someone overseas, but the ability to just not give up and be like, well, everyone in overseas is, you know, giving up, or you know, not working, so I'm just gonna like, you know, table this idea till things get better, right? And you know, we didn't know when things are gonna get better, and you know, I heard that. I heard like the networking, like, and then also like you want to scale, right? I mean, what I heard in there is that, you know, and that's what is so important. You wanted to build your business, and so you hired someone, right? And you made a creative arrangement. It worked for you. It sounds like it worked for her. You're still working together 2 years later. I mean, and that allowed you to do other things, right? And I mean, Amy and I are kind of learning those growing pains right now on the podcast, right? We've hired Hivecast to do this, but
to do our editing,
so do our editing and things like that. And so things that, you know, Amy and was mostly doing, and I was doing some of the writing, but like it's a lot. It's allowed us to provide more content. So you're welcome.
Well, it's important. It's important to recognize where you want to spend your time, right? Because like I want to spend my time, you know, making really cool designs and coming up with booby puns. By the way, here's one for you called boob storming. This is when I come up with a new idea, or you know, when I collaborate with somebody. It is let's put our tits together.
I like it.
We're all putting our tits together right now.
And for you, the writing, you know, that was probably very time consuming, and writing all the captions. I feel it, right? Even for myself, as I'm trying to put together, you know, these, you know, creative, you know, synopsises of like my course. Like I know what it is that I'm doing with my course, but you know what? I like don't want to take the time to write. So like I'm getting to this point where I'm also like, okay, how could I figure out how I could afford somebody, right? With And
so, you know what? And there's a risk that's obviously taken. You have to sometimes, like, I didn't know, I wasn't guaranteed that I was going to be able to afford this person month after month. But if I didn't try it, then how would I know? Like, how would I know what kind of time that freed up for me? So I completely trust her to nail it. And she does every time. So I got very lucky in that. But I also know that if something's not working, you don't have to keep at it. You know, if something's not working, shift, change, try something new. You know, that contract isn't permanent. Like if it wasn't working or I wasn't able to afford it, like maybe I give it a couple more months and just wait it out and then realize, okay, is this not happening or is this not working? And it might not be that maybe it doesn't work out creatively, right? Like maybe they're not providing the right creative writing or design or whatever that you need.
I mean, you need someone else that speaks titty. So that's a big deal.
Yes. And she does. She's wonderful. She's a mother of 3 and very supportive of the breastfeeding community and the breast cancer community. And so it was honestly like quick little story. She pitched it to me. This was a little bit crazy. Like I was actually, and right now, by the way, like totally sidebar, I've been practicing like manifestation, very popular right now. We're hearing a lot about people manifesting and kind of really getting alignment with yourself and stuff and all your goals. So I think at the time I may have just been manifesting her into my life because all of a sudden she slid into my DMs. We know that fun term. And she was like, I love what you're doing. And I'm a writer and can I help you in any way? Like, how could we work together? And so it was a really fun conversation, and it opened my eyes, and just by listening, I was like, all of a sudden I had tons of ideas. I'm like, yes, I absolutely need you. And now I can't live without her. So she's stuck with me.
Kudos. Yeah. And kudos to that. I love hearing that's great for anyone out there, looking for new work or looking for work that inspires you. Hey, you just literally, you took a shot. You would have never known if that woman hadn't reached out to you, she would have never known either. Right. Now it's created, a side or, a opportunity for her as well as you. Right. And, it's really just taking a chance. Like we hear that so much.
It's so important. I think that, there's a lot of things working against us. So I think it's the more you could put yourself out there. I mean, honestly, but I feel like something's going to stick. Something's going to happen somewhere. So you just got to keep at it, keep trying. But
it also speaks to the level of community that even, within the past 2 years that you have built up, right? So we said that you've got about 6,000 ish plus or minus, more than 6,000 followers. Excuse me, more than 6,000 followers. And, the people are following you for a reason, right? You've given them this sense of community. And within that sense of community, this woman that you hired or, that works with you, she also felt inspired by what you were putting out and wanted to be a part of that. And so I think that is really special in terms of what you've built in such a short amount of time, that these people want to be behind you, within the company and helping to make it grow. So I think kudos to you and this community that you've built, which is really phenomenal, because, I try to do that every day for my customers, but it's a little bit harder when, it's a little bit harder with certain items of sale, but it's amazing. It's
Thank
really
you.
amazing.
That means a lot. That means a lot. Like it was beginning of summer, May. That's summer, sure. Last May, it was the weekend before Mother's Day, and it was my first in-person event. That was the first time that I brought my titties to the people. I've been behind a screen this whole time. I have never met an in-person. I haven't talked in person to other mothers. I mean, oh, wow. Right? It was wild. Anyways, where I'm going with this is that it wasn't until you actually saw people in person and getting to talk to them that it all really just started to feel a lot more real to me, because being behind the screen, and doing this kind of call it a side hustle at the time, that it didn't feel so real yet, until you really get to see people and see how they react to your products and to what you're working on. So there's definitely this people connection to the community, community.
The human element is not dead, right? And in-person events aren't dead. And, I think at the end, you're going to tell us about some upcoming events in Southern California that you're going to talk about. So I love it, right? Because we talk a lot about the human, right? Putting that community.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it before, you did it before when things were more virtual focused, but now, you've come out of your bubble, right? And now it's back to kind of in-person full force. So I love that. And kind of with that and taking a little bit of a pivot, and talking about, we've talked about social media, your entrepreneur pursuits, but your design skills, right? And your talent for design is really a sought after skill, right? I was just telling you what, because graphic design is kind of is a need, and also sometimes a gating factor to starting a business because of the cost element. So maybe you could tell us, how you kind of got into graphic design after, you were at University of Illinois, and how you got your start in that realm of your life and career.
Creativity is in my blood. It really is. I know from as a little kid, that's just where I was drawn to, what I was interested in. I was actually pretty decent in school. I got A's. I worked hard to get A's. I have an older brother who was always very helpful in that department, because he was able to, he experienced all schooling before me, and then it was kind of a little more familiar to him to kind of help me through school in that way, but he was so much more math, engineering, brain, accounting, numbers. And I was just like crazy creative. I had every creative hobby out there when I was a kid. And I also, thinking back, I was very entrepreneurial at the time as well. If you're familiar with Highland Park, where I, where I grew up, I was part of the Highland Park Port Clinton Art Fair, which happened.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I was in the kids section of that for years. And I made a killing at the time. I'm not going to lie. I would get out of there with like $800. I was like,
What?
yeah,
Wow.
hell yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was making little clay miniatures. Honestly, anything I could think of to make, I would do it. And yes, I had this entrepreneurial spirit to sell my work even as a young kid. So when it came time for me, like as far as like schooling, I applied for the art program, and it was a state school, University of Illinois, a great school. And I, I had to have a portfolio to get in. It was a very small program for arts. University of Illinois is known for a lot of things. But the art school is very small. So the School of Art and Design, wonderful. There was like 30 people in there. So actually we all still really know each other pretty well from our class, like 30 class. And we all study graphic design. So that's kind of my whole, if you want to take it back, the creativity kind of was,
it's always been in you.
It's been there. Yeah. So, after school, I started to have my career in graphic design, and that's, really all my professional jobs have been in design. So we've got Canva, like you mentioned, and just honestly, there's so many more. Like you can just type in your search window, a kind of tool, and something will pop up. I think it's amazing that these are accessible, and it makes it really a lot easier for people that don't have a design background to create pretty good looking stuff. But I will say about these tools, which are great, is that you do kind of need a little bit of a design eye, to really master them. And there's also things like you can take little courses and little webinars and things to get some pointers around it. So if you are self-driven and you have these tools, you're set up in a pretty good place. They didn't even need to go to college. You really could, if you have that in you and you like want to learn this, like you can.
But I'd love to know, as an entrepreneur, what is something that you are most proud of? So you've shared a lot about your experience growing your business and how you got started and your why. I'd love to know, thus far, what is one of your proudest moments as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one's pretty cool. So, very, very short time that I've been in business here, but and I told you, I mentioned about how I did my first pop-up event, which was last May. And I did a few more over the summertime. And then, pop-up markets and things like that kind of die down in the fall. But then I got accepted into Renegade. Renegade's great. They have all these local artists come to a place. They do a great job of marketing, and there's a lot of people that come to their events, and you have to apply. They're hard to get into. I've got someone from my local titty team. So I've got some people that come help me with my events, and we're setting up, and then she arrives, like my friend, my titty team member, Lauren, and she arrives, and I'm telling you, we barely even had time to hug or say hi to one another because there was a line of people waiting to get into the titty tent. And people were just coming in. They were coming in. They were buying things. They were asking me questions. It was like on overdrive. I couldn't believe how much attention. I don't know if this is just like the marketing of the event. People knew about Titty City, or people were just talking about it at the event, but we had a line to come into the tent. And I just, after that day where by the way, I had like made the most in sales I had ever done at an event.
Wow.
And
did you sell out?
I sold out of one of my products on the first day, which were these super cute beanie hats. I'm showing one on the screen right now. I have these really cute beanie hats that have embroidered my design on them, and I sold out of them at this event. It was so fun, so exciting. It was a 2-day event, and I hadn't brought every single product with me, but I had to go home and like get more products and bring more products to this event. So it was just so wild. And me and Lauren, after this event, we were just in shock, and we were laughing about it. We're like, we had to like duplicate ourselves, or we didn't even know. We had people handing things to us to ring up, asking us questions about Titty City and the boobment, because I had some awesome signs about the boobment. And it was just wild. So it was just such a proud and overwhelming moment to me, where I just really felt that there's not only a market for this, there's a need for this. People want this. People want to talk about what I'm doing. And it just felt so good. It felt so good. I rode that high all the way through the holiday season.
Little follow-up to this. So did you marketed this Renegade event to your Facebook, or do you have a Facebook too?
I do have a Facebook. I
Instagram is where you're
do
big.
Too much in the Facebook. I use Facebook as a platform as well, but it's mostly Instagram. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you promoted the Renegade event on Instagram. Renegade itself obviously reaches a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you had this line, which is amazing. So were you like talking up the fact, like in your stories, that you were going to be at Renegade for like that you got in? Like, did you start the excitement of like what was going on right away? Or did you kind of like keep it like under wraps? How did you like announce that you were going to be there?
Yeah, you know what? It started in my stories and just being able to share about it there. And then being able to post about it. And then when I was there, I had some people, it was their first time, their first experience with Titty City. Some people knew about it and were in the area and wanted to come see us. And it was just a whole mix. I actually also heard from a lot of people that were there, because I had these bags that are branded. They have a stamp. I'm telling you, like, this is just very low budget. Like it's like a recyclable paper bag that I got some stamps made with my logo on it. And I stamp these bags, and that's what I give out at these events. And people are walking through the event and they're holding my bag and they're like, we need to go see Titty City. We need to see Titty City. So, and again, being that it was a 2-day event, on the second day, the people that had come to the event had told their friends. They had, and that's where like the power of all this, like, where it starts from something and it spreads. And it was really cool to have some people come and that I got to meet the next day that said, oh my gosh, my friend bought a beanie, my friend got a mug, and I can't wait to support you. And, and then people sharing a lot of that on their Instagram. So I think that organic reach is what's really the coolest reach, honestly, of all.
That's amazing. Well, you have really, really built up a very solid community, and it shows. It shows in how they've shown up for you too, out in the world, offline, and it's amazing. And I think that really speaks volume again to the need, as you're saying, for what you're putting out. Okay, so my wrap up question is, what are some actionable steps that our listeners can take if they are looking to build a community or a community of women and men and, however you identify? What are actionable steps that someone can take?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first and foremost is to show up, because if you want to build a community, you need to show up. You need to be there. You need to be talking, whether that is on your Instagram or your TikTok or however it is that you communicate or you're looking for your audience, you got to show up. Right. So, the next thing I would say is consistency. You got to keep doing that, right? You got to keep showing up. You got to keep being there. This is how people get to know you. They get to hear what you're talking about. You get to interact with them. So showing up and being consistent, I think, are for sure two. And the third, I would just say, is be authentic, be yourself, be you, because that's truly why people are showing up to be there with you. That's why, it's work. It will grow your community, because, people see through when you're not being yourself. They know, and people will start to trust you when they see that it is you and that you're a real person. And listen, honestly, not every community is for everyone. And I understand that. Not everybody's going to be like, yeah, Titty City. I get that. That's okay. But I believe that if you show up, you're consistent, you're authentic, that you're going to attract the right people for your community, and that will support you. And honestly, you could support them. That's really what the community is for, right? So true.
So true. So true. So many good things in there. And I mean, you're not even in midlife yet, Jessy. So there you go.
I will tell you, I always joke that I feel like the pandemic, just made us all grow 10 years and but yes.
Well, this has been so inspiring. Whether you're in midlife, you're not. I mean, I think that these tips and the way that you built your community, really this formula for success, right? In a small business, right? I mean, started with social media, you moved into an Etsy shop, then you moved into an LLC, then you moved into, full blown, in-person events, and, a lot of things we didn't even touch on. You do design work for other people too, but I mean, so much. I mean, we could probably have 2 or 3 podcasts, but before everyone goes and before we leave, for us Southern Californians or people who want to be in Southern California, please share what your next couple upcoming events are, maybe even your online events that, that the mailbox listeners can connect with your community or know if someone that does. So
yeah. Totally. Thank you. I actually just recently, as of this week, I have now a section on my website. So on tittycitydesign.com, I have my titty tent pop-ups and events listed there. So that's always a great place where you can go to check out where I'll be and, or where you can see some of my artwork. And so I've got 2 coming up in March. I'm super excited about them. I've never been to these locations before, so very excited. So Saturday, March 11th, I'm going to be at The Point in El Segundo.
I love that place. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. If you're South Bay or just the LA, in the LA area, it is a really fun place. And so there's a nice little pop-up event going there. So that's 10 to 3 on Saturday, March 11th. And the following Saturday, March 18th. So that's just, that's coming up right after that. I'm going to go back to back 2 Titty Tent weekends. And this is going to be at the Venice Love Fest. This is really cool. I just heard about this event. I am going to have my biggest booth yet. I actually have a 10 by 20 booth.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. It's on Venice Boulevard between Centinela and Inglewood in Mar Vista. So that's Venice Love Fest. And yeah, so those are going to be the next 2 places you could catch my titties at.
Perfect. And for listeners too, we'll put links to these things so we can catch up in the show notes. And, this is awesome. And you're also celebrating 2 years of your online shop, March 30th, right? And there's going to be some promos there you've told us about for your email subscribers. So we'll have all that in our notes too. But
yeah, 2 years coming up. I don't know. It flew by.
All right, Jessy, tell us again your website and where people could follow you on Instagram.
Yeah.
How could they connect with you?
Yes.
Outside of his event.
How can they join the movement?
Join the
movement. Be part of the movement with me. You can be part of the movement with me by following me on Instagram or TikTok. My handle is at Titty City Design. And you can also, check out my website, tittycitydesign.com. I've got all my products there. Like I said, I've got my pop-up events and announcements. And I also have my Let's Talk Titties blog, which is a really cool blog that I have to just support the community. Honestly, there's so much great content in there. And I love getting to share all that with everybody. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And that's Titty with 3 T's, Titty, right? City Design.
TittyCityDesign. Titty City Design.
You heard it here first. That's awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Jessy. Thanks for joining us.
And that's a wrap for this week. In season 2, our goal is to share actionable tips with you. We hope this podcast episode leaves you feeling encouraged and full of midlife energy. But don't go away yet. Be sure to check out our show notes. And while you're there, click to join our email list. We promise we'll send only meaningful content. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram too, for the show at Midlife at the Mailbox, or our individual accounts for our own tips and tricks at Amy L. Alex 28 and Denyse Rabat. That's Denise with a Y. Thanks, Mom. So that we can come into your inbox each week and your feed almost daily. If you're a seasoned listener or just found us, we're glad you did. Make sure that you are following our show on your favorite podcast platform. And if you like what you hear, please share our episode with your midlife bestie and leave us a 5-star review so more awesome listeners like you can discover Midlife at the Mailbox. We release new episodes every other week on Thursdays. At least we try. Our podcast is a production from the minds of 2 midlife besties and produced with love by the very creative Amy Alexander and Denyse Rabat. Professional video and audio editing by Hivecast. See you at the Mailbox.